expression.
An artist.
How do I capture that? Moments like I felt happiness, the fond memory. You can have different interpretation of it, but at the same time, it pushes your imagination outwards.
We need to dream. When you're inspired, you're meant to push boundary and to do better work. You can spark your creativity juice. Einen schönen guten Morgen. Hello everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of Henri and Mike. It is episode
16.
It is the 22nd of July 2022. It is a Friday. At the moment it's about 11:26 a.m. in the morning, almost at noontime. The weather is fabulous. Sunshine, blue sky. And so, Mike, let's introduce where we are right now.
We are currently at Padang. P-A-D-A-N-G.
What does it mean?
Padang is actually a word called field in Malay.
Right.
Malay language.
Padang.
Yes, so this place that we are at, it's significant. As you can see at the back, we have this National Gallery. This one on the right is actually the former City Hall in Singapore, and then the other side is actually the former Supreme Court. So now what it did was to combine these two together to become the National Gallery of Singapore, just like in the last couple of years. So there's a lot of art exhibition, visual arts. You know, sometimes there's some form of like a mini concert there as well. If you come by to Singapore, just a quick tip, there is actually a bar up there. It's called Smoke and Mirror.
Oh, that's a fantastic.
Yeah,
you do need to have reservation though, but it's really amazing because you overlook the Marina
other side,
Bay
Marina Bay Sands, the Esplanade.
Yeah.
So come here during sunset time, evening. You will enjoy quite a good view for that, especially on Friday. You know, it's TGIF after all.
Anyway, how's the week going?
So far, okay, not too bad.
Do you have the words for this week already?
Not really, but there's this thing that keeps coming back to my mind the last couple of days. You know, Mendo Pop King called Chou.
Chou, Zhou Jielun.
Zhou Jielun, yes. So he has released his latest album.
What's it called?
The hit is called The Greatest Work of Art. Yeah.
Ooh, exciting topic.
So that song came out, I think, sometime last week. There was a build-up to it. You know, everybody was looking forward to it. Basically, Chou is kind of like somebody you will listen to as an artist if you're born in the 90s or early 2000s. Even up until today, I think quite a lot of youngsters, they are still listening to him. He's a very influential guy in the Mandarin pop scene, basically. So he has not been releasing any of his album in the last 6 years, so it was a long wait.
That long?
Yeah, that long. He built up the entire thing, hyped it up, and then he released it last week. And within a day, I think he posted on various social media platforms, especially like streaming one like YouTube and all that. Yeah. So YouTube, he has like 10 million within a day.
Within a day, 10 million views.
10 million views. That translates to how much fan base he has and how much influence he has in the entire Mendo Pop side of the music scene, you see.
And majority of them come from mostly like the Mandarin speaking world.
I would think so. I mean, of course, there probably will be some other people from non-Mandarin speaking side just to understand how things like, but majority I would think is Mandarin Pop, Mandarin scene people from China, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Brunei, overseas Chinese people like in the US, Canada, even in Europe as well. So he has a huge following. So this time around, he came out with this song. In my opinion, I think he has not changed too much of his style. He didn't disappoint because over the years when he first started, I think the first album, which is his name, Zhou Jielun, right? I think it was in early 2001, if I'm not wrong. Over the years, you can see the styles of music change. You know, like not say change, but evolve.
But what's so special about him? Because I remember him when I was growing up, when I was attending secondary school, and it was such a big hit, you see.
Yeah.
And at first I couldn't understand him because the way he speak, like in Mandarin, he mumble a lot of his words. Like he eats a lot of his words in, and he does not really pronounce the intonation properly. So most of the time when he's singing, especially the rap part, I just couldn't understand. I have to pull out that lyrics to actually follow through what he's singing. But I still can't understand because sometimes it's too quick. Tell the audience, why is he so special? Why is he the one that revolutionized Mandarin pop?
Prior to him, there were a lot of very good artists. And I think in the early 90s or even late 80s, you have this Four Heavenly King.
Is that what you call in English?
四大天王. So you have people like, you know, Andy Lau, Aaron Kwok, Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan. Zhang
And then Leon Lai, I think. So these four, they are very popular in the Taiwanese, China and Hong Kong, even like Malaysia and Singapore as well.
The four of them actually originated from Hong Kong, that region.
I believe so. I mean, they speak mainly Canto, but they also venture into Mandarin music and even into movies as well. Before Jay Chou was this group of people, and then after that there were many artists, but they were just doing okay, I feel. And back then the scene was very much, the songs that you listen to are more melodic and more like, in Chinese we call 抒情歌.
A bit slower, a bit more nostalgic.
Emotional. Yes, correct. I think that's generally when you listen to Mendo Pop music, people will associate with a lot of emotions inside, love, heartbreaking, this kind of stuff, you know. So I think when Jay Chou came into the scene in early 2000s, he continued that theme, but at the same time he brought in a lot of elements into the music style. You start to hear things like rap, hip hop, classical music, you know, rock on top of pop itself. So that changed a lot of things because it led to a lot of artists saw what Jay Chou did, brought in another element and dimension. So there was a little bit of a paradigm shift, and people saw the possibility of doing that. So it led to other artists that came up to do similar stuff. Rap, for example, Wilbur Pan, you know, Pan Weibo. So he has quite a fair bit of rapping style. So that brought into the Mendo Pop scene. To some extent, you also have Li Jiuzhe. I believe he's American-born Chinese or Canada-born Chinese. I'm not too certain. But at the start, he speaks mainly English. But then after that, he ventured more into Mandarin music. And then he did a lot of things on top of the traditional, what people term as the Mendo Pop. So that dimension started to change ever since Jay Chou came in. So you can see the music, the Mendo Pop music scene evolve in the last 15 to 20 years because of him. Of course, it's debatable, but in my opinion, when I look at it, it definitely sparked a lot of ideas of other artists as an influence, and they start to do things on their own as well. I thought that was very special, really.
Why is it that it's so important to have art in our life? Art in various forms. It can be in songs, songwriting, or singing, can be modern art, performance, theatrical work.
To me, it's an expression of individualism, emotions that comes out with it. Any type of it. As a human being, we're not robot. We are humanized in the sense that we have emotions. We go through every single day. Today I feel happy because of something. I feel angry. I feel hungry. It generates a lot of emotions, you see. Of course, other than verbally, when I talk to you, like how we are doing this Henri and Mike chit chat catching up, it will be a lot of other forms of expression. Like let's say I find this scenery here very beautiful. How do I capture that? Moments like I felt happiness, the fond memory, or maybe I could paint it. Even in today's world, we actually take photos or even take videos like what we are doing right now. So that's really an expression of emotions, expression of yourself, what you stand for, what you hope to be. So I think the key word about expressions is very important here.
Expression, arts for me is very important. I associate that a lot when I was younger, when I was a child, growing up, especially in primary school or secondary school, when there's still like arts as a lesson, then you really, draw or write your Chinese calligraphy in different ways to express how you feel about certain moods, certain scenes. So why I think art is important in our life, because we shouldn't be too far away from the reality. But at the same time, we need to dream. As a human, when you dream, there's an inspiration. When you're inspired, you're meant to push boundary and to do better work. You can spark your creativity juice. So that's something I find very important. When we were in the hospital the last few weeks attending to our loved ones, so there was this sign says, art washes from the soul the dust of everyday life. I think that's very beautiful because it kind of describe the reality that we're living in, like going for work, committing, or tending to your responsibilities, be it family, friends, or children. But at the same time, when you have art, it kind of like cleanse your soul. All those little dust, like the things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you have to do it because that's part of your responsibility. That's why it washes away the dust on your soul from the daily life that's accumulated. And I think it's really good because it gives a chance for you, yourself, like your soul, to breathe, to be inspired. And I think that's important. So I really like that phrase a lot. I was standing in front of that and didn't notice board advertisement in the hospital. I was reading that over and over again. I just thought, wow, that was so beautiful. And also some people might argue that, hey, but you see that artists, a lot of time they are stealing or copying from each other's work. But even Picasso also said that before. Good arts are copied, but great art, they are stolen, that's stealed. It depends on what are the narratives, right? So some people will copy or they will borrow certain ideas from here and there and then you create something of those. skills.
Yeah.
So that actually helped you to push the boundary further. And similarly, that's what Chou has done. He started with pulling different elements from the Western world, like the pop or the rap culture, at the same time also drawing in a lot of classical music pieces.
Yes, a lot of it, really.
So and he makes both elements from the West and the East, and then came out with his own version
like
of
his
what
own interpretation.
Yeah, his own interpretation, what it means by like Mandarin pop music scene. So he kind of set the trend on that. And during these last 21 years, I think he evolved a lot, and he has been a very popular name in the Mandarin speaking world. And I think he's a very good case study, not only to look at how he uses music and art to express himself as an individual or as an artist, but at the same time, he has that business entrepreneurial mind, how he actually promotes his work, his masterpieces, like nowadays through internet. A day, you can hit 10 million views. I think that's insane,
I do agree with a lot of the points that you made. Like even just talking about Chou, how he brought in ideas from other areas, other genres, basically introduced them into Mendo Pop. And that really transcend the entire Mendo Pop scene altogether. Some of the songs that he wrote really have a lot of like classical music influence. And I think there's this song for him, it's called like Turkish Ice Cream. So I think he got in the song, there were influence from Mozart. Wolfgang Mozart, the Austrian composer. I think it's called Turkish March. So he tied that in. There's just one example. There were a lot of others.
Wait, so Turkish March to Turkish ice cream.
I think he was trying to play a pun on that, maybe. but yeah, I mean, the point is that he brought in classical pieces because as a child, he has a pretty good solid foundation
in piano, right?
In piano,
Classical
he was trained.
Piano.
He was trained in that manner, and he brought that into his own work. He has his own influence, and then he started to find other influence of music type into his own music. Genre, and then to come in and he expressed more, and he popularized or introduced his own style of music. He created a name, he blended everything together. So one of the points you were saying about his word, he doesn't open his mouth to speak clearly and sing clearly. People has termed that to be 周氏唱腔.
周氏唱腔.
Easy style, really, because everybody have different accent, the way of speaking, the way of singing. So that's how he did it. He put everything together, synthesized, and he created a new style. And then people start to draw inspiration from him.
So it's basically embracing who you are as a person.
Yes, really.
Transferring perhaps part of your weakness to your strength, like really embracing that. It reminded me of a quote from this American author called Jada Selner. She says, there are no unique messages, but only unique messengers. So a lot of things being said already, but just because no one's listening, so it has to be said again. That's a French author called André Gide who say that in his work. So based on those, you kind of draw inspirations from different artists or different artworks, and then you produce something from yourself. So that's why art is so important in your life. For instance, right now what we're doing for Henri and Mike, it is a form of expression. It is a form of art. I don't know, somehow that for me, it just kind of pushes my days more. It makes me happy. Yes, no doubt that setting up all these different cameras and doing all this technical stuff, sometimes it can be mundane and it can be draining. But when you look at the final product, like Pat, who's watching right now, our editor.
Hi, Pat.
After she has done the editing part, I just love that so much because you can see that the idea that's really floating in your brain, it comes to realization. There's a piece of art itself because that's what you produce. Because of that, I also did like one of my video, I did it before, it's called Being an Artist. Why is it so shitty being an artist? Because you need the time to accumulate your skill sets and experiences to be someone who is great at doing what he or she does. And have that as a video for being an artist. Those words were inspired by Ira Glass. Ira Glass is an American radio personality, kind of producer as well. So he does a lot of works in the form of arts through radio to express that. So I think those are really, really stunning and beautifully words being said. Check it out if you're interested. So are you able to tell me, apart from music, what are the other arts, like significant art, that's something that hold very dear to you? Like certain piece of art that you have seen before, it means something for you at that time frame of your life?
To some extent, I think paintings. I think there's no one particular piece, but there were different style that broaden my horizon. If I may, if I just use Chou's latest work, the greatest work of art, inside, in this music
video.
the video itself.
Yeah.
And even in the lyrics, he draw a lot of inspiration from visual artists. People like Claude Monet, the French artist.
Yep.
Yeah, René Magritte, I think the Belgian surrealism painter. Even like Salvador Dali, the Spanish painter as well.
True, yeah. Xu Zhimo as well, this Chinese writer. He's also an artist.
The calligraphy gun, is it?
Yeah, he was in the music video too.
Yes, so these are the type of different forms of visual arts that broaden my horizon, because by looking at the same scene, like here, you can have different interpretation of it, other than being realistic about what you see, but at the same time it pushes your imagination outwards to what can possibly be. Maybe it draws out the inspiration or the reason, the motivation why there are different interpretation can be down to your daily life. I'm trying to escape from something, so maybe this type of drawing style, painting style, elaborate and brings out what I truly feel.
So you see it as an arena to actually elevate your energy, and also
to really go back to the fundamental
of stress,
to express myself, but different interpretation really all together. I feel that that's very cool. The thing, just a couple of days, what I saw on social media. So there's this painting, quite a number of people are doing this, like as a painter itself. You have this canvas, you cut it into 4 quadrants, same sketches, but you paint it in 4 different styles. And that says a lot about your mind itself as you push different boundaries within yourself. Like today I'm Mike, but I can be a podcaster, I can be somebody who's doing trading, I can be somebody who's actually doing quite a fair bit of exercise and all that,
So it reminded me of the conversation I had with my accountability partner, Goda. Shout out to Goda. So she did a video on DALL-E, D-A-L-L-E, I think. So what happens behind this whole concept is artificial intelligence is able to create art. How it works is that you put in certain keywords like a singing goat, and that the artificial intelligence is able to produce that piece of work. So the technology is still being developed and it's not being released to the public yet, but certain marketing has been out in the market. So that's why in YouTube, since a lot of people are actually talking about it. And Golda has done that. Like, look at her video. It is amazing how the artificial intelligence or this advanced technology can produce certain art. And we're talking about art. It's a form of expression. It creates inspiration and help you to push boundaries, so you become more and more innovative. So my question to you is, what happens when artificial intelligence is really able to think by themselves and they're able to create art? Isn't that it takes away the form of expression for human being?
I think it's yes and no. Yes, because it truly will take away, or rather I can see how the artificial intelligence is able to take away the way that humans is able to think. But you got to remember, for this artificial intelligence, it works on an algorithm. For the algorithm to do it, you need to have input. And the input is from reality, and it's from human beings. What we do, what we express, they take it in so that we will be able to train the artificial intelligence, and then they will produce an output. And then from there, we will have a response of like, oh, this is something that I've not thought about before. It will inspire me to think further. Oh, this is a possibility. It pushed the boundary for me.
But that's only having
something new.
But that's only having the assumption that artificial intelligence is not able to think by itself. Then what you just mentioned, the hypothesis you just mentioned, will stand true. Because then, as a human being, you still need to put an input there. And that's a form of expression. And for them to do the process, the work itself.
Humans need to first agree, to really have an input first. Even if today you want to generate a goat singing on top of a mountain, for example, right? You need to type that keyword in to let them, to train them.
Yes, exactly. But it's only having the assumption that artificial intelligence cannot think by itself. Coming back to that point again. Because recently there was also, I think, one of the ex-Google software engineer, he reported that artificial intelligence can think by themselves. So there's a whole article about it. So what happens when artificial intelligence can think by themselves? And how, as a human being, can we control that they don't take over our life, basically? Well, from the audience out there, if you're a software engineer, or like those people in the technical field, what would you think? Because you mentioned about AI and human expression. So I'm just thinking whether you being an artist in one field, will you be able to have influence other fields? Yes. Because I do think that, one key example that I have is how architects and engineers work. You have this at the background here at the Padang National Gallery. You have your Marina Bay Sands over at the other side. So ideated by architects. They draw out, they imagine how beautiful it will be. Conceptualized. And then it's made possible with the partnership with engineers to make that happen. So I can already see an art form, an idea, how we feel, how we want to express ourselves from the architect.
they design it, the engineers make it happen. I see the interaction between
the interdisciplinary field.
Yeah, the art forms really.
In my first master degree, I studied in Liechtenstein. It was a master degree in banking and financial management. During the thesis time, I wrote a topic called Chinese modern art as an alternative investment. So in principle, I married art and finance. The financial part was something that it took me some time to get there.
How about the art part?
But the art part was beautiful. Because I have to do the arts market research first, right? So throughout the whole process, I fell in love with the Old Master Journal. Old Master Journal is actually evolved from the present day, the Netherlands and Belgium, the Flemish part.
Okay.
So when you look at it, it's always that they have a very dark background and then they really focus on the portrait of the person or some animals or whatever it is.
Okay.
So my favorite is the one by Rembrandt. It's called The Night Watch. I love that painting so much. The first time I saw it was in Singapore, but that was definitely not original. It was just in the one of these dark room, and the way they use the light to lead out the painting.
Okay.
It focused on different characters there. When you look at that, most of the people inside the Night Watch, they're all military personnel.
Okay.
But there's a cat and a little girl there. I find the whole expression, especially when the lights lead out on those faces, it gives so much more inspiration there. The idea is that you were thinking that why is the little girl and the cat is actually among the 16 military personnel. And years later, I went to Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam in 2015 because that museum was closed for 10 years for restoration.
Wow.
So in 2015, I went there in April, remember. I went there by myself and I stood in front of the original painting, original piece. I was so amazed. It was such a moment, like
you felt the connection, like, wow,
you
my
do,
God.
because when I first look at that piece, it carries so much emotion and memories there. That was really, really sensational for me. So through that whole first master degrees thesis writing process, I really fell in love. Like, I get to understand more about art in this case. I'm not an expert in that, but just certain moment, you can feel that sensation within you see. So that really tied back to, what you say about whether two disciplines, two areas can actually be combined and come up with something innovative. Yes, it is possible. Maybe that's also for artificial intelligence and our human emotion.
I also have a question. What makes a good artist, really?
It is hard to define because art itself, it stores the emotions because beauty is the eyes of the beholder.
Right.
So how you value a piece of art and how I look at a piece of art can be totally different, and let alone like how you price it. You see, so everyone has different definition on that. But how do you determine whether it's a good artist and bad artist or great artist?
If there is no clear-cut way of looking at it, maybe if we take another look from another angle, is there any traits that we can encourage ourselves to be a good artist or just promote embracing art in our life?
Embracing yourself, like Chou, the ability of not able to pronounce Mandarin words properly, because Mandarin words, vocabularies are based on intonation.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really speak very precise and articulate in the pronunciation.
Okay.
But then that he somehow changed it to his strength, and then that's how he market to the world. A day, 10 million view. So I think to answer your question is to embrace who you are as a person, because there's only one you in this world. There's only me. So you're the most unique messenger already. So whatever you said, it is a unique message to the world. Do you have the words already actually? I mean, it's a really interesting topic. I mean, I can feel my blood vessel boiling.
Yeah, I do have a word. The word for me is expression. All the things we talk about, starting with Chou, what I mentioned at the very start about the new album and the new hit that he has, to all the other conversation topics that when we went through point towards one direction, which is all about expression.
I think I have my words as well. Artist. Not art, but artist, because artist describe the person that's doing the art. So I think that can kind of sum up what we just discussed. What do you guys think? So we have our words for this episode. It's called expression and artist.
Expression and artist, you're
right. Do you agree or disagree or have different perspective with regards to the topic we just kind of like discussed with each other? Write it in the comments below. Like, it will be really helpful for us to push our own boundaries more. So with that, we conclude our episode 16, expression and artist. Don't forget to subscribe, Henri and Mike, like, share, and comment. This is your host Henri
and Mike signing off.
Don't forget to smile, keep each other company, and
be kind to yourself.
See you next time. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.